Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear all students. Welcome to the lecture of epidemiology and public health. Today's lecture will be about the epidemiologically significant infectious diseases. In this lecture, you will learn about the different diseases which are epidemiologically significant, and the one of them we will discuss are the foodborne illness, the diseases which is spread by the water source, and as well as the foodborne diseases. So the significant infectious disease are the major outbreaks of infectious diseases demonstrates how the previous methods can be utilized to find out the cause of the infectious disease and to minimize the outbreak of the infectious disease and their mortality and morbidity rate. So the diseases which are significant and have already they are reported or their outbreaks occurred previously. So they include the foodborne, waterborne disease, vaccine preventable disease, sexually transmitted diseases, the diseases caused by person to person contact, the arthropod-borne diseases, the disease causes by the animals, the zoonotic disease, and the fungal diseases. This is the examples which shows the foodborne disease. For example, botulism is one of the main agents which causes the foodborne disease. Clostridium perfringens, food intoxication, norovirus salmonellosis, staphylococcal disease, campylobacter enteritis, and trichinosis. The water and foodborne diseases, their agents and the disease are amoebiasis, cholera, dracunculiasis, E. coli diarrhea, giardiasis, legionellosis, and shigellosis. The disease which can be prevented by vaccines that include the chickenpox, diphtheria, influenza, measles, mumps, pertussis, and poliomyelitis. The STDs, which is the infectious disease spread by the sexual contact, are the chlamydial infections, genital herpes, gonorrhea, HIV, AIDS, human papillomavirus infections, syphilis, and trichomoniasis. The disease which are spread by person to person contact include aseptic meningitis, group A streptococcal disease, herpes simplex virus, leprosy, respiratory infections, tuberculosis, and viral hepatitis. The arthropod-borne disease, they include the dengue fever, Lyme disease, malaria, plague, Rocky Mountain spotty fever, viral encephalitis, and waistline virus. The zoonotic disease are the anthrax, brucellosis, leptospirosis, psittacosis, Q fever, rabies, and telluremia. And in the last, the fungal disease are the aspergillosis, blastomycosis, candidiasis, coccidioidomycosis, cryptococcosis, histoplasmosis, and tinea pedis. So these are the diseases which are significantly epidemiologically significant. The first one of them is the foodborne illness or the foodborne disease. So this table shows us that what is the disease and which agent is usually causing the disease, what is the incubation period and the signs symptoms of the disease, and the mode of transmission. So In this list, the top of the them is the botulism, is the disease which is caused by a gram-positive bacteria, Clostridium botulinum, and they have a classical syndrome which is compatible with botulism, and they are transmitted by toxins, especially the canned food. So this disease is spread by the food which is unhygienically canned. The second disease, which is the foodborne disease, is the salmonellosis, and this salmonellosis is caused by the various species of Salmonella typhi, Typhimurium, and Salmonella enteritidis. The incubation period of this disease is 12 to 36 hours, and usually they have the gastrointestinal symptoms, the abdominal discomfort, pain, diarrhea. So all this occurs in this salmonellosis, and they are transmitted by contaminated food from the person who have already salmonella, and that person have contaminated the food with salmonella organism, or for example the undercooked chicken, the eggs, meat, or raw milk. So these are the agents which are responsible for the transmission of salmonella. The staphylococcal food poisoning is one of the major disease which is caused by Staphylococcus aureus, and their incubation time is very short, from 2 to 4 hours, and they also have gastrointestinal symptoms, diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, pain, and sometimes they have vomiting. All these include in their syndrome. And the mode of transmission is the various contaminated, major of cases with vomiting, contaminated food with the contains staphylococcal enterotoxins. So these staphylococcal enterotoxins, they also causes the vomiting and the gastrointestinal symptoms. The another disease are the caused by the Clostridium perfringens, gram-positive rods, and their incubation period is food 10 to 12 hours, causes food poisoning, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, and it is transmitted by the heavily contaminated food from the Clostridium perfringens. For example, the meats or gravies inadequately heated, or these substances are stored at the temperatures that permit the multiplication of these Clostridium perfringens. Another disease and the causing agent is Campylobacter enteritis or the Campylobacter jejuni. Their incubation period are 2 to 5 days, causing diarrhea, abdominal pain, malaise, and fever, and transmitted by the chicken or pork who is contaminated with the Campylobacter jejuni or Campylobacter enteritis. And these food are undercooked or contaminated food, contaminated water, and raw milk. Cholera, which is caused by Vibrio cholera, and their incubation period is 2 to 3 days, causing profuse watery rice water stool and diarrhea, which is usually painless. This disease is spread by contamination of water or the infected feces that comes in contact with the water or the food, or vomitus also contaminated with the food. So this is the examples. Which shows us that the production of different food products, their processing, their distribution, and they are being distributed to the restaurant, to the hotels, and to the home. If they are prepared good, then the persons who are eating them or taking them, they are safe. But if they are not processed safely, hygienically, then these all can be a source of the spread of this disease. Now the next are the list of the group of the water and foodborne disease. These water and foodborne disease include amoebiasis, cholera, giardiasis, legionellosis, and schistosomiasis. These all agents are responsible for significant burden of the morbidity and mortality rate in the areas where they occur. We will discuss the example of schistosomiasis in this disease, and one location for the transmission of schistosomiasis is along the Nile River in Africa. Many human activities occur along that riverside: the recreations, the task-related personal hygiene, and the sewage disposals. Or these activities occurs. So when the human waste, they are deposited at that river's water, so it causes contamination by the schistosomiasis, which is the main causing agent of the schistosomiasis. And those who comes in contact with that water, or they encounter the water, so they are at the increased risk of producing schistosomiasis. And after the building of the dam, which is called the Aswan Dam, the cases and the rates of schistosomiasis, they increase due to the human intervention in life cycle of schistosomiasis. The transmission of schistosomiasis, it requires an intermediate snail called Biomphalia glabrata. It is a snail which is the intermediate host for the life cycle of schistosomes. The three major species of schistosomes are known: the schistosome hematobium, schistosoma intercalatum, and schistosoma mansoni. And this schistosoma mansoni is the major cause of African schistosomiasis. This is the life cycle of schistosoma mansoni. First, it is excreted in feces or urine. Then it is taken up by the snail tissue, and then this snail, when they comes in contact with the skin, the broken, the cracked skin of the person, so the person is infected by this disease. When the schistosome, they are developed in the snails, so these form the cercari, which is released by snail into water and free swimming. So when these cercari infects the humans, they lose their tail during penetration and becomes schistosomally. Then they goes to circulation and migrate to portal blood in the liver and mature into adult schistosomes. Their pair adult forms migrate to mesenteric venules of the bowel, the rectum, where they lay their eggs and circulate to the liver and shed in stools. So, this is the life cycle of schistosomes. The human life cycle, this is the infective stage, and here it is the diagnostic stage. And this is the intermediate stage within the snail. Another example of water and foodborne disease is the cholera, which is an important disease and characterized by acute enteric diseases with sudden onset of occasional vomiting, rapid dehydration, acidosis, and circulatory collapse. This cholera is caused by the bacterial agent Vibrio cholera, and it is a pandemic in the many parts of the developing world. This is the map which is being released by World Health Organization, and the different areas, the different region of the world. So this blue areas shows the European region, this is the American regions, this is the African regions, and the Eastern Mediterranean regions. This is the Southeast Asian region and the Western Pacific region. So the distribution and the color representation of different regions, which is released by World Health Organization, and on the basis of these regions, the annual number of cholera cases in the endemic countries. So the lighter area, this is the area in which the cholera is not an endemic, but in this African, East Mediterranean and the Asian region where the cholera is endemic. This bluish region shows the areas in which the annual cases are equal to, or it is round about 1000 cases per annum, and this is the lighter blue area. This shows the area in which the number of cases, they are from 1000 to 10,000 cases per year. This whitish area, this shows us the number of cholera cases from 10,000 to 25,000 per year. So the ratio, the cases are very high in this African region, and in this greenish areas, certain regions of the Africa, the East Mediterranean and the Asian region. So the number of cases, they are from 25 above than 25,000 and up to 50,000 cases per year. And this reddish brownish areas, the most dangerous area in which the cholera is endemic, and the number of cases, they are high than 50,000 cases per year. So the figures and the numbers, it is given by the World Health Organization, which is released in 2013. This is another map which shows the major cholera outbreak in 2017 and 2018. So the multiple African areas and their number of cases. So this is the Nigerian African region in which the cholera is 1.3%, and the registered cases were 7,209. And Angola, in which there were 2% cases, 713. Zambia, this is Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, and United Republic of Tanzania, Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and the Yemen. And Haiti, which is the American state, in which the number of cases, they were very high, and this is the case fatality rate, as we have discussed in the previous lecture, that the number of deaths from a specific disease, and this is the report of all the cases in 2017 and 18 and their case fatality rate, which is released by World Health Organization. The third example of water and foodborne disease is the agent which is called the Entamoeba histolytica. This is a common parasite which is associated with the amoebiasis and usually causes intestinal diseases, diarrhea, stool. In US, the Colorado State Department of Health has reported an outbreak of amoebiasis that occurred in the period from the December 1799 to November 1980, and this was associated with the chiropractic clinic. And the stool cultures, blood test, biopsy studies, all these investigations, they strongly suggested that the etiologic agent of that outbreak was the amoebas. The sexually transmitted diseases. The HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, and acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, their epidemic has a major domestic and international concerns for economic activities and utilization of health resources, because these epidemics have a role and effect on the economic activities of the societies, and they are a very major test of the health resources within a community, or they are the test of the health resources of a country. In 1981, a weekly report published by the Morbidity and Mortality, they published the descriptives of 5 cases of pneumocystis carinii pneumonia along the previously healthy men. The disease became known as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS, which is caused by human immunodeficiency virus. This human immunodeficiency virus, it is usually occurs within a man, and 75% of their cases occurs they infected the men, and the high risk population of this HIV infections, they include the homosexual male and the persons having the race of African Americans, the Hispanics, or the Latins. So these are the people at higher risk to these STDs and HIV, and the HIV infection is most likely to be undiagnosed among younger persons from the age of 13 to 34 years, male with high risk and heterosexual contact, the homosexuals, and certain ethnic and racial groups. So this is the issue with the HIV, that it is hide inside the person, and the incubation period may be up to 10 years or more than 10 years within these persons and these groups, and they remain undiagnosed for many years. The HIV epidemic is particularly acute from a worldwide perspective, because throughout the world this disease is spreading, and it is spreading at a very fast rate. The World Health Organization estimated that approximately 34.2 million of the people, they were having HIV, and they were reported in 2011, and approximately 23.5 million HIV infected adults and children, they were from the region of sub-Saharan Africa and the least developing countries and the poor countries. So the country with a high burden and poor socio-economic status, the ratio of HIV is high, and other high prevalence regions, they include South Asia and Southeast Asia, in which the infected persons were 4.2 millions. In the Eastern Europe and Central Asia, 1.5 million people were affected from HIV, each from both of these regions, Central Asia and Eastern Europe. And Latin America and North America, 1.4 million persons were infected from each of these regions. This is a graph which shows us the percentage, the people who are this dotted line, this blue dotted line shows us who are living with AIDS and they are diagnosed, and this blue line, this shows that they are diagnosed with AIDS, and these blue dotted and broken lines, this shows that the person living with expected HIV infection. This black dotted line, broken line, this shows us the deaths which occurred from the HIV, and here is the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, they are the diagnosis. In 93, the AIDS surveillance, their cases were and their definition, they were expanded, and in 1995 the antiviral antiretroviral therapy was introduced, and due to their introduction the AIDS deaths, they were very minimized with the introduction of that antiretroviral therapy. This is the world map which shows the infected people, 34.2 million people in 2011 and their distribution throughout the world. Here it is the Caribbean, in which 2,300,000 people were infected. The North America, in which 1.4 million people were, and the Latin America, 1.4 million from each of these regions. The Western and Central Europe, 8,600,000 people were infected, and the Middle East, North African region, Sub-Saharan Africa, the most infected region from HIV. This is the Eastern and Central Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, in from which 4.2 million people were infected from HIV, and the Oceania, in which 53,000 people were infected from the HIV AIDS. So this was all about the first part of epidemiologically significant infectious diseases. Thank you for watching the video. Hope you have learned about the certain specific infectious diseases which have causes outbreaks at various times throughout the world, and their distribution and multiple reported that was presented by World Health Organization.